I reckon Donald Trump is destroying the White House this week. Welcome back to the I Reckon podcast. All right, in the news today, this is going to be a quick one. My jaw hurts. I think I clenched my teeth when I was sleeping. I'm a mess, so it's going to be a quick one today. A couple things I saw on Twitter that I want to discuss. In the news, number one. Oh, I'm going to save that for last because that's good news. Playing off of yesterday's episode, Patrick Heiser tweeted out, North America has the highest quality grasslands and savannas in the entire world. We could and should be entirely independent from globalized meat production. Any meat import policy or any meat import is a policy error. Now, with strategic reserves for resources, normally I wouldn't agree with this because it's like, okay, well, we'll import, and then if there's a big emergency, we'll have a big stockpile of stuff that we didn't import that we can use ourselves. With meat and food, there's a lot of infrastructure that's got to exist around that to make that happen. And it's not really something you can do when it gets really bad, is to just like have a bunch of farmers crop up out of nowhere. So I don't disagree with him there. Next up, Gavin Newsom, the most disingenuous man, I think, in the entire world. The lizard skin used car salesman himself says Donald Trump doesn't want you to see this picture, and it is a picture of the renovations going on in the White House. He's literally destroying the White House, referring to President Trump and his renovations to the East Wing, I believe, to add a ballroom. The left is freaking out about this. He's destroying the White House. Blah, 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 blah. So I looked into it. And here we go. Hold on, I gotta look into it again. Sometimes the internet likes to censor the responses you get to your questions. Okay. James Madison. Well, it starts with Thomas Jefferson installed bathrooms, basically, indoor plumbing, redesigned parts of the interior. James Madison fixed it after the War of 1812. No big deal. Ulysses S. Grant installed the first elevator and modern heating system. Dude is the GOAT. A note on Ulysses S. Grant later. Don't let me forget. Theodore Roosevelt constructed the West Wing. Okay, did not exist before 1900. So he constructed the West Wing, moved offices out of the second floor of the residence, gutted and modernized the main floor. William Howard Taft expanded the West Wing and added the first Oval Office. Let's see. Franklin D. Roosevelt built the modern Oval Office, added an indoor swimming pool for polio therapy. Pretty cool. And let's see, Harry S. Truman. The entire interior was demolished and rebuilt with a steel frame. Added 2 new basement levels for mechanical systems and a bomb shelter. Dwight D. Eisenhower installed the first television wiring. That's cool. Modernized the kitchen and the air conditioning systems. Dude, Ike knew what was important, okay? John F. Kennedy. Historic restoration project with Jackie. Return period furnishings and art, established the White House Historical Association, and redecorated many rooms. Richard Nixon added a bowling alley. Modern security systems. Renovated the Lincoln sitting room and the family dining room. Jimmy Carter updated energy systems. Pretty cool. Ronald Reagan replaced furniture and upgraded the press room, which was built over FDR's pool. Shade. Bill Clinton refurbished public rooms, redecorated the Oval Office, installed a new kitchen and HVAC systems. Again, these guys with the kitchen and the HVAC, that's the key, okay? George W. Bush security wiring upgrades, updated the Situation Room, restored Lincoln bedroom and historic finishes. Barack Obama famously added a basketball court, also added solar panels to the roof, did some other stuff, minor renovations. Anyway, point being, the White House has changed over time. Pretty much every president, minus the last one, because he was dead for 4 years. Otto Penn did not draft any renovation plans. These presidents update the Oval Office, okay? No one seems to have a problem with Barack Obama wanting to improve his jump shot, Franklin D. Roosevelt wanting a swimming pool, or Richard Nixon wanting a bowling alley. No one has an issue with this. But when it's Donald Trump, we're going to lose our minds, right? It's just so played out. It's so tired. The funding for this ballroom came from basically Donald Trump scrounging up donations. So this is not a taxpayer funded project, which is why it's ongoing in the middle of a shutdown. Additionally, I think it's a good addition. More people in the people's house, I think, is a good thing. That's my instinct. There's really no place to gather at the White House in the winter. So the fact that Donald Trump is putting something in there that allows people to gather, allows more people the opportunity to celebrate Christmas, more press can come in, more, events can be held there. I think that's great. They will find anything to whine about. It's so exhausting. But anyway, little, history with Jess as far as the many renovations that have gone on in the White House over time. Okay, another story I saw. USAID shutdown slashes Somalia's GDP and revenues amid US aid cuts. The halt in over $1 billion of recent support has exacerbated drought. Okay. And insecurity, raising famine risks for millions. I don't know what $1 billion has to do with the amount of rain that falls in Somalia. Again, big ol' hot steaming plate of not my problem. Everybody's freaking out because critics are warning of a broader African economic fallout, including poverty increases for 5.7 million people by 2030. Listen, are we colonizers, or is Africa not our problem? Like, is it our problem or is it our problem? Because I think Africa being on the planet and being populated for as long as it has been, I think it's kind of on them at this point. Like, it's not on the United States to fix Somalia. I'm sure defense industry, these contractors, they would love for us to keep toiling around in this failed state. But like, foreign aid, if you're a failed state, and I think we can all agree Somalia is a failed state, you don't get foreign aid because you don't have a country. Because you're not a country, because you're a failed state. So you don't get anything. Like, it can't be our problem. Somalia has neighbors. If everybody in Africa cares so much about the fallout from an unstable Somalia, they can help. But again, that's just me. I am militantly America first. I don't know what Somalia does for us other than send us really shitty congresswomen. House Democrats launch master ice tracker amid safety backlash. So, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, or House Oversight Democrats, I don't even know what that is, plan to introduce a master ice tracker website to document verified reports of immigration and customs enforcement activities. For enhanced transparency and oversight, Republicans, including Senator Mike Lee and Representative Elise Stefanik, and the Department of Homeland Security, condemned the initiative as a threat to ICE agents' lives, referencing the September 2025 Dallas shooting. Listen, I think the only answer to this, because, if people want to put up a website, to track where law enforcement is. I mean, didn't Waze do that for cops, like trying to pull people over? You know, is there a large threat against ICE right now? Yes. Is there always an ongoing threat against law enforcement of any kind? Yes. Um, I think people are well within their rights to say, I saw ICE on this street corner. I saw ICE at Home Depot today and put that on a website. That's not an issue. If you're worried about threats toward law enforcement officers, maybe we should try not throwing them in jail when they defend themselves from a violent attack. You know, this is a Justice Department problem. This is not like ICE agents have the means to defend themselves. They have the right to defend themselves, and the Justice Department can give them top cover. So, like, everybody's going to be fine, except for people who are here illegally. They're going to get deported. Last story today, little bit of good news. Unbelievable new study, Gen Z and millennials are now the most regular churchgoers. That makes my heart happy. And I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it in our parish. Like, the number of young families has increased from what I've seen in the past year. The pews are full. Um, really in the past like 2 months, I've noticed that all of the pews are pretty much full. And we very often go to the 8 a.m. mass. So that's saying something. When 8 a.m. is full, and then 10 a.m. is it's just bumping in there. It's great. But it makes sense. I mean, we're stepping into that period of life where we're starting to have families. Uh, I've said before, like, the birth of my son brought me to God, you know? I had been to church before, but I felt like I was just kind of faking it. I wasn't like fully convinced, but yeah, I see God in my son's eyes every single day. So, like, it's not deniable at that point. So, I think as more millennials and Gen Zers have children, as the world begins to infect more of your life through your phone or just things that you're forced to see and deal with and talk about that, like, you don't really want to see and deal with and talk about. I think on Sunday, it is really nice to leave the world behind and just go to church and be with God. So I'm really happy that more people in our generation are finding that, and bringing kids up in Christian households because we are a Christian nation. Hopefully, that's not a surprise to anybody. But yeah, so ending on that little bit of good news, we are getting ever closer. It is Wednesday today, so we've got 48 hours until we record our first episode of the I Reckon podcast with our co-host, Jeff Maddox. I think that's it. Christ is King. See you guys later. Bye.